We were going to have a great opening, but then we figured out it was April Fool's Day, and the opening that I was going to do was not foolish enough, Brian.
Wasn't foolish enough, Randy.
Wasn't foolish.
Uncharacteristic for you.
so, as I was telling you, oh yeah, future Ozza. See, Ozza, get it? Ozza
Yes,
was.
I get it.
Oh, all right, yes. Is this better than the first try that we gave a little while ago?
Marginally.
Marginally. Okay, well then we'll keep it. We won't throw it out like we did the last one. Brian, I am told that you are a future guy. You're a future Ozza. You're all about the future. You've claimed on my show that you do or don't have superpowers with regard to the future.
Yeah, it's just a time machine. I mean, is that a superpower? I mean, you have the ability to fast travel. You call it a car, but I call it magic.
Magic. There you go. In any particular Tesla that you want to choose. Okay, so I'm going to call on you for some future thinking, some analysis of where Tesla might be going in the future, because at the end of the day, we are trying as hard as we can to figure out what's going to happen with Tesla and then share it with our friends, neighbors, associates, and others that might be dropping by the channel.
I'm ready.
All right, you ready? All right. So I put out a thing the other day. I said that Tesla is a story stock. Do you agree that Tesla is a story stock?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you agree that the story of Tesla, the story that Tesla potentially has, and the story that people tell about, is the greatest story ever told about a car, any kind of company in the world ever?
Boy, I'd have to look at all the other companies, and I don't have time.
Oh, so I'm just saying, if you take into consideration something called an Optimus and a robotaxi, just those two alone, those are the story, right? I mean, they're the main future story at this point, is robots on four wheels and robots on two legs, either one of which could be the largest company in history. And therefore, that would make it the greatest story stock in history.
Without a doubt. If either of those are first, second, or third to market, that would make this an insane proposition. It would be truly ginormous and amazing. So, yeah, if those are solved, what's the next story stock company going to be? All I can think of is teleportation.
Right, yeah.
It would have to be, because we're in science fiction territory and it's becoming real. And a lot of things that were genuinely impossible, even 5 years ago, are now becoming real. If you look back 10 years, everybody thought they could solve autonomy with if then coding, with heuristic coding. And it quickly became apparent that there's too many nines to march. We're now in the March of Aprils, as Dr. Scott Walter cleverly put it. And it's tricky. But you don't need to teach it everything. You just need to teach it the theme, and it can solve it itself. And that's where we're at. We're seeing a lot of things like that are happening every day in front of us. And it's great that your AI can make a picture, but this AI can give freedom back to those with limited vision, limited mobility, limited I mean, even if you just have seizures. I had a show recently where I showed a man had a heart attack. I interviewed a man who had a heart attack while driving and woke up on the side of the road being given CPR. And that's because he was on FSD and the car didn't crash. It didn't kill him. It didn't kill someone else. It just stopped.
Yeah, I've heard people suggest that maybe at some point the car would know that there was an emergency like that and take him directly to emergency. That would be really cool.
Be crazy. Be wild.
So one of the parts of that story then you just talked about, which is FSD. So a major potential catalyst for the stock would be a continuation of this steady improvement on FSD to the point where I guess we've already dropped the word beta. So we're now in supervised FSD. And then hopefully at some point the supervised gets dropped. We go into level 4, then level 5. So as we're making these moves, of all the catalysts out there, that and the bot would seem to me to be the most important.
Those are the most exciting. Those are the most revenue intense in terms of potential margin and profit. Those are the most game changing in terms of, the whole ecosystem. I know when I was looking at your notes earlier, my thought was, where's Megapack on this list? And then of course you addressed it. And the answer is Megapack is great. It's wonderful. It's going to produce revenue in the tens of billions of dollars. But AI, but the bot, but FSD, 10 billion is adorable in that perspective.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. So we've got these other companies out there that have stories that are story stocks right now. We have within our own environment, we've got the Elon Musk environment. We've got X.AI, we've got X.com, we've got Grok, and these are all not Tesla, but they are all related to Tesla. And as a result, nobody that's a thinking person imagines that these aren't all part of the same ecosystem and trading back and forth. Tesla has availability to all of the capabilities that these companies have. And just the other day, Elon said that the next version of Grok, the 2.0 version, the 1.5 version comes out this week, which will be equal to or better than the chat GPTs, et cetera, of the world. He says 2.0, going to whip them all. So is this going to be a help? Do you think if that 2.0 is better than any of the other systems out there, that people will start to believe in the story at Tesla that they are the leader in AI and AGI?
So they don't have to be the leader. They don't have to be. If you and I both make lemonade and you have a lemonade stand on a very good corner and I've got a lemonade stand out in the country where no one goes, who's going to win? It doesn't matter how good your lemonade is if no one can use it. Tesla, SpaceX, all of Elon's companies have the ability to use these things today. You asked, who doesn't see this? And you and I know the answer to that. Idiots. Idiots don't see it. Some of them don't see it because they're blinded by hate. Some of them don't see it because their profession requires them to pretend they don't see it, but it's right there. Well, but XAI is a separate company. X is a separate company. Grok isn't part of Tesla, right? And SpaceX isn't part of Tesla either, but they rely on their metallurgy to make the materials needed for things like gigacastings. The cross-pollination is very real. There's a reason the boring tunnel doesn't have any Mach-E's in it. And it's not because the Mach-E isn't a fine car. It's because it stays in the ecosystem. It just does. The crossover is very real and pervasive. So my question to you would be, Grok integration. If you're someone who's not terribly technical, I know a lot of people who've never bothered to play with chat GPT because the first time you use it, you are absolutely playing with it. You're checking it out. Well, if those people never get into that ecosystem, how would they ever know what they need? Well, the answer is if Grok is in your car and you can ask it, hey, I want to do a driving tour today. Where should I go? Grok could integrate it and say, I know some places that have a lot of pictures taken of them, or, anything like that. And it could just start driving you around. That's an application that ChatGPT won't get to unless they find a partnership, negotiate a partnership, spend years on integration. And with the engineers at XAI and at Tesla, they could have that integrated pretty quickly.
Very quickly, very quickly. So as FSD improves and gets better and we get closer and closer to having robo-taxis and whatnot, I'm expecting that certain governments are going to start making decisions. In fact, we've got the EU that said the other day that they've got their what would you call it, regulations finished. We had a state, I think it might have been the state of New York, that set up a division, set up a new commission, if you will, to study and make the decisions about their regulations. So as state after state, city after city, country after country start talking about the regulations and or actually approve Tesla for certain things, would you expect that to also increase this mindset in the world of finance and investing, that their minds would finally be infiltrated with the idea that this is real?
You would hope. I would certainly hope so. We don't know yet. It's too early to say. But the first step was inventing airbags. The second step was getting airbags approved. And what was the third step, Randy?
It was
Mandatory airbags.
mandatory, yes.
I can see a time in the not too distant future, backup cameras are mandatory. They went from invented to approved to mandatory. If it's saving lives, it may become mandatory. And if it does, there's already some really great driver assist systems out there. Toyota has a pretty good one. Others do as well. George Hotz from Comma AI was asked, well, what government would ever approve this? And he said, they don't have to approve it. First, you go to them and say, hey, look, I've got an automated system that will stop me from running into the car in front of me. Can I put it on the car? And they say, yes. Well, now I've got a system, that same system can now recognize stop signs. Is it okay if it stops? Sure. Well, the cruise control, can it resume after the stop sign? And you go one step at a time. Where do you draw the line? And especially when it comes to technology, legislation is very reactive and very late. So this technology is going to get out ahead of the legislation. And once that genie's out of the bottle, and with version 12, that's kind of what we're seeing. Version 12, I shot a show yesterday. I think it ran this morning, where I brought on Brian Reeby from Brian Reeby Drives Electric and Jim, the Iowa Tesla guy, because all three of us live in cities where version 11 didn't work. And all three of us are on different versions of 12. We've got a 12.3, 12.3.3, and 12.3.2.1. And all of us have different experiences with different remaining challenges. But all of us said this is such a huge improvement. And once genie's out of the bottle, man, it's happening.
Yes. And so then partially it will be how Tesla communicates. As always, communication matters. And so we've got an earnings call coming up in about 3 weeks. I'm thinking that the statements, this is an opportunity for Tesla to really put out some great statements about things like what is completed, what isn't completed. What about the accounting? Are they going to take a higher percentage of the FSD revenue and profits than they've been taking before? Will they estimate that they're going to take all of the future earnings and revenues maybe in the next quarter or something like that? Would they talk about some of the stats that they're getting in, the number of disengagements per mile or the number of accidents per mile, et cetera, as they give us more and more and more of that? Oh, maybe they're going to talk about when the FSD is going to get on the semi or on the Cybertruck. I would think all of those things, again, would just start slowly but surely to change the mind of Wall Street.
Well, let's talk about the accounting real quick. For those who don't know, if you spend 12,000 or 7 or 15, whatever it was at the time you bought your car, to purchase the full self-driving beta suite, Tesla didn't get to book all that revenue as profit, as revenue, as money they got. They had to keep some of it, originally all of it, but less over time, set aside as an unfulfilled obligation, kind of almost like a debt. And as it becomes more and more capable, they've been able to count additional little percentages of it. And when it is complete, whatever that means, and that's a little harder to determine, they can count the rest of it. So this quarter, we saw version 12 go out wide. I am confident that will result in some additional percentage being counted. But we've also got very big news. It's been approved in Canada and Australia. It has gone out to those users. We're going to definitely count a big chunk of their revenue because they didn't have it before. They had no part of it. So that is going to show up. We don't know what percentage has been counted. I'd be very curious to know. I think it's very disappointing and a little curious that we haven't found out yet. But these will be hitting hitting the revenue statement. As for how many of those items that you listed will actually be discussed, some of them go beyond the scope of an earnings call. I don't think FSD for semi would be in the scope, but and Cybertruck, I don't think that's a financial guidance issue so much as a technical one, but it'll be very interesting to see.
But it could be that the question will be asked, because I know the people who are driving their Cybertrucks around right now are going, "Where's my FSD?" So
It's
it could be a
it's
question that gets
crazy.
asked.
And by the way, I don't know if you saw, but Justin, the bearded Tesla guy, was driving a borrowed Cybertruck around the country when he found out, hey, turn around, go back to Salt Lake City. They've got one you can pick up today for yourself. The one that you ordered, we can have it for you in Salt Lake City today. So now he is in the process of towing a Cybertruck back to Florida with a Cybertruck. And in his first 456 miles, how many times did he have to stop to charge?
456, once.
7.
Oh, 7 times. 7 times.
Oh, no. Well, he was going over mountains, but
Oh, I see. Okay.
but that's still, and he wasn't going all the way down because the chargers are spread out enough that he wasn't ready to risk it. But that's not the ideal use case for a Cybertruck at this time.
Well, so for sure, one of the biggest things that could happen that would change the mind of Wall Street would be if somebody puts up a licensing deal. Somebody says, Ford says, General Motors, BYD is my favorite. A lot of people think it'll be Ford first. I think BYD has the most to gain and the most to lose. But anyway, anybody, doesn't matter. It could be, the smallest company. It could be Nissan. Would say, nope, we want FSD in our vehicles and we're going to do a licensing deal. Do you think that would really make an impact on Wall Street's brain matter?
Yes, because their brain matter is so limited that even small things can really blow it out of proportion. Here's the beauty of, I'm Mazda, I'm Suzuki. Here's why I should announce an FSD partnership with Tesla. As soon as I announce that, no one's going to ask me what I'm up to anymore, and I don't have to spend another penny on it. And I can just say, look, the longer you take, the better as far as I'm concerned. Just let me know when you're ready, and then we'll start doing something. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep doing what I do and ignore all the noise because it's not my problem anymore. So I think it would be such an easy thing to do. It would be on par with, I saw a great post on X from the Tesla Owners Club of India. He said, hey, I got a new idea for a business. I'm going to make 42 different models of EV in 2 years, all of them Tesla and BYD killers. Who's in? And that's right. Press releases are easy. Work is hard. And this would be a great way for someone like a small player, Mazda, whoever, to say, hey, we're done. We accomplished it. We did that. We solved FSD by signing a license agreement, even a memorandum of understanding, and both companies, I think, would rise on the news.
What I'm looking forward to someday, any day. I mean, it would be the kind of thing that would make my day. Okay. And it would have to be other than on April Fool's Day. Would be a CNBC, one of the regular commentators having a bear on there, and this bear talking about how Tesla is not real. It's really an auto company. Come on. It's not an AI company. And having this commentator say, what are you talking about? Their cars are driving themselves. I've driven in one. It's virtually a done deal. Look what they're doing in robotics. Look at their dojo system. Just kind of hit them in the head over and over again with the things that they're doing that are actually more advanced than what the other companies are doing. Would that potentially, just that kind of an exchange, maybe start getting Wall Street to go, wait a minute. Do you think?
No, I don't think Wall Street gets high on their own supply. I don't think they watch those shows. And the big thing you got to remember about the bears is they're shouty. So if you start hitting me with too much good news, I'm just going to bring up the volume until you can't share anything else. The other thing old Gojo likes to do, Gordon Johnson, the best looking man in suspenders in the 2020s for sure, is he'll raise 10 points and then say go, and as soon as you start talking, interrupt you. So his 10 points get to stand, his old gish gallop. So it's now the you might as well debate with a real bear,
A real bear. Yeah, yeah.
an actual
An
grizzly.
actual bear. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, the story that I'd like to see take place is kind of wrapped up in what we just talked about. That slowly but surely over the next quarter, roughly over the next quarter, between videos that might come out about Optimus, between more news releases about maybe them starting production or something like that of Optimus, or beginning to put out the first products from the line. Maybe that happens in the following quarter. Or some of this FSD thing that we just talked about, states and whatnot, making decisions. All of these things just becoming almost like an infectious storyline that gets, because, Brian, my claim is that when we were at 410, it had a lot to do with the hype about Robotaxi. A lot to do with that. People were thinking that they were going to be able to turn their car into a money-making machine. People were thinking that this was going to happen within weeks or months. And I think a lot of the reason we got to 410 was because of that. And then that got beaten down. A story that gets chopped up into little pieces and starts to, lose its wings and things. I don't know why I'm coming up with these particular descriptions, but the story lost its mojo, its dojo or something.
So I will tell you, I disagree. I disagree strongly on the assessment on what pushed Tesla to its all-time high. There were two things I saw. One was a lot of really exciting news, things like the Hertz deal that said, wait a minute, this is a real legitimate company. You've got Brett, was it Brett Favre? Who was it? No, who was it that did the commercials for Hertz?
Was it Rogers? I can't remember.
I don't remember. Big football guy. I don't know. I don't follow the footy. So, but that was big news. And you also had the meme stock aspect of it, where it just every day in the news you hear, and Tesla's up, and here's all the news, and also, of course, Tesla's up. And a lot of people get FOMO'd, they get the fear of missing out, and they have to jump in. And that's why a lot of bubbles happen and why a lot of them pop. And then as soon as it starts reversing, those people go, what have I done? And they bail, and the spiral begins. So I don't see it as, there were certainly some people who believe that, but I think most of those people were more likely trying to position themselves to get enough cars to actually have a fleet rather than buying the stock itself. Because while both would have potential, the promise of a robotaxi, as described at that time, was very, very juicy.
Very juicy indeed. Okay, so what is the final analysis here, Brian? Do you agree or don't you agree that if the street begins to understand the story that Tesla is in fact the leader in AI and AGI, which is the #1 hottest topic on Wall Street right now, do you believe that that will cause the stock to rise?
If that were to happen, for sure. But I don't see a way it can happen, because AI is very hard to wrap your head around. And as you and I know, these are not forward-thinking people on Wall Street. These people drive forward by watching the rearview mirror and saying, wow, who knew the road was going to bend? Certainly not me. Roads don't usually do that. They're usually straight. So yeah, I drove off into the ditch, but that's okay. There's another analyst behind me who will take my place. So there's no, I don't think they'll get it. I don't know if Tesla needs to be the leader, if any of Elon's companies need to be the leader. I think it's pretty clear that when you see some new big AI development, it's very clear that the hard part is solving it the first time. The second player has it so much easier because they know what's possible, and catching up is so much easier, it appears, than others had realized. That's why you saw image generators come up, and 6 months later you saw Adobe had their version out. Where were they 6 months ago? Were they even working? We don't know, but it's out and it's done. And here you go. So it's an exciting time to be an engineer, I imagine. Maybe the next 10 years will get a little scary for that industry, but we'll see. In the meantime, I don't see Wall Street getting it until the revenue appears, and the revenue could start appearing next next quarter, tomorrow, the quarter that begins today.
That would be lovely. So I want to say to everyone out there, how many channels, how many other YouTubers out there bring on characters like Brian White, Larry Goldberg, and just go down the line and bring them back time after time after time, even when they don't agree with your basic premises. I mean, Brian, that's what we bring you on here for, is because I'm not always right.
What?
But I was right this time. You're completely wrong. What are you talking about? Of course it's going to raise the stock price. Okay. Follow Brian anyway. I find that his channel is one of the most amusing and amazing, not necessarily in that order, in the YouTube world. And follow him also over there on Patreon. Follow him on X. Go find him wherever he might be. What do you think, Brian? Is that okay?
I think we're getting so late in the video that nobody's watching, but in case you are, I have a very, very big announcement today, Monday, at noon on my channel, Futuraza. It's a very big announcement, and definitely not just an April Fool's joke. I wouldn't do that to you. Certainly not 2 years in a row. That would be very surprising. You must. And when you get there in the chat, tell me that you came from Randy Kirk's channel, because otherwise I'll just, I won't know that you guys actually care.
I'm sure glad you remembered to do that, Brian, because as you can tell, it completely went out of my brain.
Well, things do that.
Such as it is. Okay, we're done here. It's been great again, as always, having you, Brian, and to all of you out there. As always, it's been great talking to you.